Gentlemen, this is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Monday, the 6th day of January, year of our Lord 2020. Welcome to the John Moore Show. We begin our shows with something I hope every member of the United States Congress, United States Senate remembers and does not forget. That would be the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Prepper tip of the day, I want to encourage everybody to stock up on toiletries, soap, toothbrushes, toothpaste, shampoo, mouthwash, shaving cream, razors, all those things. And, of course, toilet paper. More toilet paper than you ever dreamed of. Lots and lots of toilet paper. You want to be a hero for the ladies on the team? Well, buy it by the case, seriously. That's your prepper tip of the day. We have a patient waiting in the green room, my friend Sam Andrews. Sam is the proprietor of Freedom Center USA down there in beautiful Lebanon, Missouri, where I was yesterday all day for the reloading class. And this is Firearms Monday. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, John. Great to be with you.
Good to have you, sir. Well, we mostly due to your efforts last Monday, we hit a home run with that show. It's been broadcast far and wide on YouTube and Facebook, both. And it was a very timely show, focusing mainly on the events of a week ago yesterday, the shooting at that church in Texas, and your observations and comments on that. That's what got people so much attention. And, of course, your analysis of what happened. I don't want to redo what we did last Monday, but thank you for your analysis and your thoughts, and that was quite a show. Thank you, sir. Well, we are looking forward to the firearms tip of the week, sir.
Okay, my firearms tip of the week this week has to do with holsters. In light of last Sunday's event, a week ago, last Sunday's event, and the whole world got to see in living color what happens when you can't get your gun into play quickly. And it really boils down to the choice of your holster and some of the details in how you configure that holster and how much you practice with that holster. So we get people coming to the Freedom Center all the time for handgun training. And the first thing I ask them to do is to bring their handgun and holster rig into the shop and let me take a look at it. And they look a little bit shocked, like, oh, he's going to find something wrong with my holster. And generally, the holster is fine as far as its construction and the way the gun fits in there and the fact that it covers the trigger guard, which is always a good thing, a mandatory thing for a good holster. But what seems to be so prevalent that so few people understand is that the holster sits on their body at an improper angle. And I don't mean forward to backwards. I mean the way that it leans towards your body or away from your body. So we had a thin, really in-shape gentleman come in from South Dakota on Thursday, brought his rig in, he put his holster on, and the holster and gun literally leaned in from bottom to top, almost 25 degrees. And of course, when he went to draw the pistol, he was pulling the pistol into his rib cage to try and get it out of the holster. And of course, it was awkward. It was slow. We did some drills with the handgun out on the range, and he was really fighting this holster the whole time. So I sent him to the hardware store to get some screws that were longer, and I made him spacers that changed the angle of the way the holster sat in relation to his body. And it was like he went from an amateur that never had training before to a professional pistolier. The first time he drew the pistol from the adjusted holster, when it properly sat on his body, it was like the smoothest draw I've ever seen a student make. And he got really, really quick with just that physical change to the holster. And he looked so smooth and so effortless and so quick. It was a remarkable change. But we do this all the time at the Freedom Center. I'm begging everyone to put your rig on and stand in front of a mirror. Look at the line of your body. Look at the line that the pistol has to come out, to come up out of the holster. If that line isn't parallel to your body, that holster's not sitting on you properly. And you need to make some adjustments, or you need to get a different holster. And so my tip of the week is check your rig. Look at your pistol and holster rig in front of the mirror and look at the line that the pistol has to take as you draw it out of your holster. If it's getting closer to your body as you're lifting it out of the holster, you've got a problem. And you need to deal with it, because under stress, you're going to fight that draw. It's going to cost you a half a second or a second. And you're going to see the same thing happen that happened a week ago last Sunday when several men were slow to draw. The good guys lose. If you can't get your gun into play, it's going to cost lives. And so I want you to take the time, take 3 minutes, stand in front of a mirror, and make this happen, and get it fixed. Don't wear that rig in public until you get it fixed. And that's the truth.
The holster in question, he put the spacers on. Would it have been a Kydex holster?
Yes, it was a Kydex holster.
It sounds like something it would be. The nature of those Kydex holsters makes them easily adjustable in the manner that you did, so I suspected it probably was Kydex as opposed to leather. Doing a similar thing with leather would have been not involve washers from the hardware store, would it?
No, you can't adjust a leather holster, but they do make leather holsters of different shapes and different angles. And so I bought a leather holster for my wife years ago, and it was made for a woman's shape with hips. And so the holster had a bend to it that allowed the pistol to sit vertically, even though her hips weren't vertical where the holster laid. And great design. And it worked really well. And so there are answers out there, but you've got to be able to get a straight, clean draw to be effectively quick at getting the gun in play. And as we saw from the video last week, the number of people that die in an active shooter situation is always determined by the arrival of the second gun in play. Once the second gun comes into play, all of the murder stops and the bad guy dies.
Right.
And that's the reality. And so we have to give a little bit more priority to practicing our draws and getting our holster in the right position so that we can bring the gun into play as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. We got our first caller here saying we got Mark in Texas. Good morning, Mark.
Hello?
You're on the air, Mark.
Hello?
Go ahead.
Good morning, John. Good morning, Sam. I just wanted to call in and make a little bit of a statement about the training that I received this weekend and what I think of it. And basically, I just want to tell the listeners that it's very important to vet your trainer. And it's a wise man once told me, be careful who you select as your trainer. Well, when I arrived at the Freedom Center, I got to look around the machine shop. I was very impressed with the equipment in there. And then talking to Sam, I had been listening to him on your radio show for a long time. I began to realize that this man is the real thing. Not only does he have the education and the background, but the technical expertise and the ability to take that information and turn it into information that people can readily understand and take for their own use that's a special thing. Not everybody can do that. Usually they're good, strong in one area, but Sam is well-rounded in that respect. And I really appreciate the training, and I have a lot of tips that I can take back from my training this weekend to improve on everything. And I would encourage everybody who is interested to probably give Sam a call. I know he's good at answering questions and happy to talk with people on the phone, does it all the time. If you're really serious about improving your skills and taking them to the next level, and you want to be sure that you're receiving training from somebody who is actually qualified to give you that training, then he's your man. Also, the equipment and the equipment selection is so important, and Sam has tested and vetted all this stuff, so you can ask him a question about anything you need. This can save you huge amounts of time. I know it has with me. I don't have the time to test out all these different pieces of equipment and like he does, but and it's everything. It's from the load-bearing equipment to the firearms equipment to the sheening equipment to tactics and instruction on the range. I mean, just ask him, and he can tell you. It saved you tons of time, and he's the well-rounded guy that can really lead you in the right direction, help you take your game to the next level.
Well, Mark, I have a couple questions for you. First of all, how many miles did you drive to come to Freedom Center, USA?
Oh, gosh, it was about 9 hours. I'm not sure how many miles that was.
Okay, 9 hours. So we're probably looking at 500 to 600 miles in that range. Would it be a fair statement that there was probably half a dozen or more firearms training locations much closer than that drive?
Absolutely.
And you're aware of them, and you're aware of what they do and how they do it, and who their instructors are, more or less, aren't you?
Yes, I've spent quite a bit of time trying to pick my trainer.
Okay, all right. So you did your homework, and you did your due diligence, and you came to the conclusion that Freedom Center USA in Lebanon, Missouri was a place that was worthy of this drive time, these miles, motel expenses, meal expenses, to get the training you were looking for, correct?
That's right.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Sam, you got any follow-up while Mark's on the phone?
Yeah, I just want to thank Mark for the commercial. Mark was a very, very good student. He's a great listener. He's an athletic guy. He's really talented with a gun. And he made some remarkable improvements this past week. When he first got to the Freedom Center, we had him run an El Presidente, which is 6 shots on 3 different targets, a mag change, and then 6 shots on 3 more targets. He was around, if I remember right, around 13.2 seconds. And at the end of the weekend, I think I clocked him at 6.99 seconds on the same drill. I mean, that is just a stunning improvement in speed and efficiency and accuracy to run that drill in under 7 seconds. I mean, you're in the Tier 2 Special Forces asset range from a time standpoint when you start getting under 7 seconds. And it was really fun to watch the light bulb come on and watch him just run that gun and stay in the fight and shoot with that kind of speed and accuracy. I really enjoyed him as a student. He did a great job.
Outstanding. Well, Mark, we do appreciate the call. Anything else, sir?
No, sir. That's it. Thank you very much.
We appreciate it. The call number is 800.
Hey, thanks, Mark. Have a safe trip.
Call number is 800-313-9443. Train. When I got back from Vietnam, Sam, I was in Continental Intelligence Command for a few months, and then I transferred to the 6th Special Forces Group at Fort Bragg. And that's when I came to realize, while I was in the 6th Group, that if I stayed in the Army another 18 years to finish 20, that I would train for 18 years. It really, I went from AIT to Vietnam and back, and I wasn't aware of that part of the culture of the U.S. military until I was in Special Forces and found out that if I would spend 2 months of every year training in either a heavily wooded environment or a desert environment, that the training would never end. And That's simply the way it is for active duty military, isn't it, sir?
Well, I hope so. It should be, because if you don't have a continuous improvement mindset and you're not working on your skills, you're going to leave something on the table. And in a lethal situation, that could be your friend's life, it could be your life, it could be the life of a family member. And as I stated last week on the show, I'm not willing to call the death of innocent people acceptable. For me, a win is the bad guy dies and all the good guys live. And the more you train, the better your chances are of approaching that scenario.
There's lots of old sayings concerning this topic, but one is the more you sweat on the training field, the less you bleed on the battlefield. And that's proven to be very true over the years for both law enforcement and military both, hasn't it, Sam?
Oh, that is absolutely the truth. And the thing that we've said before, but it's just so true, John, is that these skills are perishable. You know, in the training this past week, we were working on transitions with Mark and I guess Todd from South Dakota and some other men that were there. We had a lot of different people show up for training this week, but we were working on transitions from the AR-15 to the pistol. And so we were doing a drill where I would load the magazine, the first magazine in their AR-15. I wouldn't tell them how many rounds I put in the gun. And then they would have to run a scenario on multiple targets. And their gun would run dry. And it's amazing to take an experienced police officer or an experienced military 11 Bravo and watch them run their rifle dry and then freeze and not know what to do.
They don't put a tracer in as the first round. That's what they should be doing. We got a break. We'll be back. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Monday, the first Monday of the year, Monday, January the 6th. My website is thelibertyman.com. We have a speaking engagement set up now in Indianapolis, Friday and Saturday, May 1st and 2nd. The title of it is Megaquake 2020, put together by Pastor Paul Begley. Megaquake 2020 in Indianapolis, Friday and Saturday, May 1st and 2nd. I look forward to seeing a lot of you there. We've stopped promoting the cruise. It's the remaining cabins are very expensive. If you still think you might want to go, just give me a call. We'll talk about it. It's just about filled up, so we've stopped promoting it. This is Firearms Monday, visiting with Sam Andrews, the proprietor of Freedom Center USA. If you want to talk to Sam about having a rifle built or getting some training, just give him a call at 417-718-2597. I say again, 417-718-2597. The Facebook page is Freedom Center USA. Sam, I was looking at a photo on your Facebook page, and he had 3 students that looked like they came from a movie with the dreadlocks and the face masks that they had. It's a pretty neat photograph.
You're talking about the guys dressed up in their Predator outfits.
Exactly.
Yeah, occasionally we get some Tier 1 guys in that have a great sense of humor, and they are amazing to watch work, and their work ethic and the amount of effort that they put into their training is exceptional. That's why they're Tier 1 assets, and sometimes they do a little stress relief, They unwind a little bit, decompress a little bit, and have a little bit of fun. And so occasionally we'll get a picture of that and throw it up on Facebook and let everybody have a good laugh.
Well, it's It's a well done photograph, and I didn't know those kind of masks even existed, but then I hadn't been looking for them either. Outstanding. Well, you when you were tell our listeners what a Tier 1 asset is, because many of them may not know, sir.
Okay, so we have, as a structure in the Department of Defense, we used to have what was called sinks, and that's an acronym for a command area, and so we used to have 7 sinks. Now we have these command centers sectioned out, like we have Northern Command, we have Euro Command, we have AFRICOM. We have all these different areas that are designated out, and there's usually a 2 or a 3-star, I think typically a 3-star, in charge of that area. And so that's how we kind of divide up areas of responsibility in our military structure. And in the same sense, in the Special Forces arena, under JSOC, or Joint Special Operations Command, we have what the flag officers call Tier 2 assets and Tier 1 assets. And those are different levels of training, different levels of expertise. So, for example, SEAL Team 6 would be a very well-known, popular example of a Tier 1 asset. A Tier 2 asset may be the 75th Rangers. And so the way that things are classified and the way, in a lot of ways, determine on how they're used and how they're planned to be used strategically. And it's based on training. So, like, let's say in the Black Hawk Down movie that everyone's familiar with, you've got Tier 1 assets on the inside in a bag and boogie mission trying to capture or kill the enemy, and on the perimeter you have Tier 2 assets protecting them on that operation. That's a relatively common example of how those assets are deployed.
Okay, well that helps our listeners to understand what's going on, because that's terminology that's not in common usage in the general public. Tier 1 and Tier 2. Well, thank you, sir, for that explanation. And point being, you have the best of the best coming to Freedom Center USA Tier 1 assets from the private sector and from the military, and various lettered agencies, as we say, to get training at Freedom Center USA, don't you, sir?
Yeah, I've worked with just about every group you could imagine except the Air Force guys. I've never worked with any of the Air Force snipers or the Air Force Special Operations guys. I've worked with a few PJs, but I've never worked with any of the Air Force guys. I've worked with the Marine Corps, the Navy, some of the Army guys, over the years. And I think Sunday, we had an Army sniper instructor in our reloading class. So, these guys come in and out for various types of specialized training, and we give them what they need and wish them well and tell them to go get the bad guys.
Tell people what an Air Force PJ is. That's something people would know what that means.
Like a pararescue guy, and so he's a medic. He's a very highly qualified medic, similar to the skills of a corpsman in the Navy, but also he has the ability to dive and to jump and to punch out of submarine. They get a lot of varied training, and they're incredible athletes, and they have special forces warfighting skills as well.
I only know one PJ, and he was quite the warrior. We have a break. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
All right, we are back on Monday, the 6th of January. My website is thelibertyofman.com. That's thelibertyofman.com. I know many of you have seen the original documentary titled Vaxxed, V-A-X-X-E-D. Well, there's now a Vaxxed 2 out. We have a link to the website for Vaxxed2.com on my website. If you scroll down the right side, you'll see it there, the Vaxxed 2 documentary. We're looking at possibly an Ebola vaccine being mandatory fairly soon. That's certainly a very strong possibility. You really don't want to get that. You really, really don't want to get that. Watch the documentary. Get your hands on it. You'll be very glad you did. If you're dealing with arthritis pain, there's something at my website that'll help you. It's called the Energy Cleaner. The Energy Cleaner helps arthritis pain. It does. In the small likelihood, and we're looking at maybe 1 or 2% chance that it doesn't, I offer a 90-day money-back guarantee on the Energy Cleaner. That's what I do from me to you personally. You want to get great night's sleep, sleep as good as a small child every night like I do? Well, you need an Energy Cleaner also. $285 shipping included, American zip codes. The mattress pads that go with them, they vary in price. I ended up with a double order, so I've got a huge inventory of mattress pads right now. And they vary in price. We've got twin, full, queen, king, California king, the handy travel size. Everything's for sale right there at my website at thelibertyman.com. Under products, there's a drop-down menu. I have a toll-free order line 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. Order line only, 800-592-9543. This is Firearms Monday. If you've got a question or comment, anything to do with rifles, shotguns, pistols, optics, ammunition, training, legislation, just give us a call at 800-313-9443. And, of course, our Firearms Monday guest is Sam Andrews down there at Freedom Center USA. Telephone number down there at Freedom Center USA is 417-718-2597. Oh, Sam, is it time for the Master's Moment?
Well, I think we could have a little master's moment today. I was kind of upset about the church shooting last week, and I just wasn't really wanting to get into it. But I think that it's important to look at these great men that have contributed so much to our society and to our gun culture and to the safety of other human beings. And I want to talk about Jeff Cooper today.
Please do.
Jeff Cooper was a gentleman. He was an Army officer, a veteran. He started a school called Gun Sight Training Center that still exists today. And he is notorious for his incredibly sharp wit and logical way of looking at things. And Jeff Cooper has helped more people by starting his training center in Paulden, Arizona, called Gun Sight Academy. They have trained Tier 1 assets, Tier 2 assets. They've trained Hollywood stars. They've They've trained intelligence, direct action people. They've trained military personnel from around the world. And I was trained there as a young man. And so this was, for me, a really incredible experience as a young man, was to go out there and meet guys like Carlos Hathcock and Neil Terry and these incredibly brilliant instructors that had real-world experience and had tremendous skills. And these were calm, professional men that knew how to transfer knowledge and knew how to transfer skills and knew how to develop you as a warrior or someone who could fight with a weapon system. And I had several training classes out at Jeff Cooper's facility. Now, at the time that I was at Gunsight, an Asian man from California who owned, I guess, 5 or 6 pharmacies had purchased Gunsight and was the new owner. And so when I got there for training, I showed up a day or two early, and this man explained to me the history of Jeff Cooper. Now, I never got to meet Jeff, but I got to see what he did. I got to see what he started and what a profound effect it had on America and its community. And a lot of what Jeff Cooper did and the good that I saw come from it is at the foundation of why we started the Freedom Center in the Midwest. And so if you're interested in a really fascinating American, look up Jeff Cooper and read some of his stuff and read about him, and I think you'll really enjoy reading about an exceptional American.
Absolutely. Well, I had some correspondence with Jeff Cooper back in the mid to late 80s. I think it was around the late 80s, around 86, 87, along in there. And his letters to me is some of my most prized possessions, is the letters written to me by Colonel Cooper. He was born, it'll be 100 years ago this spring that Colonel Cooper was born. And his books are just wonderful. And I recommend his books. He used to have a monthly column, and I believe it was Guns and Ammo, for a number of years. Those columns were very well written. And you're absolutely right, Sam. The work begun by Colonel Cooper, the institution, Gunsight out there, out west, continues to this day. And his concept of the scout rifle was cutting edge, and I built my own version of a scout rifle, which I have to this day. I'm not sure you've ever seen this particular one. It's a Remington Mohawk 600 and .308 caliber. And I've used it on a couple of real-world operations, and it performed quite well for me in its designated role. Would you like to describe to people the concept of the scout rifle, please?
Sure. The scout rifle was designed to be a little more compact, a little bit less weight than a normal rifle, so you could aim it quickly, and it had an optic that wasn't the typical 2.5 to 4 inches of eye relief. It had a special optic put on it, or iron sights. Either way, they were done either direction. But they had iron sights that were farther away from your face. When you had the rifle shouldered, you had a lot more distance. So it opened up your field of view. It allowed you to point the rifle and get that first shot off much quicker. And, the same thing that we were talking about in relation to the church shooting as far as concealed carry versus open carry, Colonel Cooper applied to the rifle when he developed the scout rifle. Everything he did to the scout rifle was so that you could get that first shot on target faster. Cooper completely understood the issue of winning a gunfight, and he knew that the first hit usually wins. And that's what drove his development of the scout rifle.
Well, it started out, the Steyr, if I'm saying it correctly, Steyr manufactured the first scout rifle as a factory piece, using his specifications and with his authority of Colonel Cooper. But and we're looking at the early 1980s when that was introduced. We now have a number of manufacturers marketing similar bolt-action rifles with a removable magazine that more or less conform to the configuration of a scout rifle, don't we, sir?
Oh, yeah, there's a bunch of options out there now. But, I thought when I first looked at it, I thought that was the strangest thing I'd ever seen, this small scope, way forward on the gun, way away from your face. And then when I was at Gunsight, my handgun instructor there gave me a scout rifle, and he had a pack timer. He had a timer on him, and he said, okay, let's see how quickly you can find the target with this rifle. And I compared it to my rifle, and I was easily 0.3 of a second faster on a target for the first shot with a scout rifle that I'd never held before in my hand than I was with my own rifle with the big scope 3 inches from my eye.
Absolutely. It was, I stand corrected, 1997 is when Steyr started manufacturing the scout rifle to Colonel Cooper's specifications. Well, it's a concept, and there is a military application as well as a civilian application for this particular rifle, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think with the AR-15s and the AR-10s now, the 300 blackouts and the aim point red dots forward on the receivers, I think you kind of got the best of both worlds with a setup. You've got the speed of a scout rifle and you've got the firepower of a semi-auto. So I think Colonel Cooper taught the world a lesson about optics and quick target acquisition. And I think those lessons have been applied to the battle sights that we put on the modern ARs, and I think they're incredibly effective.
Absolutely. Well, we're looking at research and development and things moving forward as research and development progresses and trial and error and technology improves. All these things move forward more or less together, don't they?
Yes, they do. And John, I had no idea you had letters from Colonel Cooper. You never showed me those, and I want to see them.
Well, they're in file cabinets, and it's going to be a challenge finding anything. I was away from my home for a year and a half, and everything's discombobulated here. But I'll put it on my list of things to do.
Well, I'd like to make copies of them and frame them and put them up on the Freedom Center so people can see them. We've got a copy of the Declaration of Independence from the early 1800s that's engraved into brass hanging at the Freedom Center. We have a world record Shiras moose rack at the Freedom Center. I'd like to have a Jeff Cooper letter hanging on the wall there. I think that'd be fantastic.
Well, I'll see if I can make that happen. If I find it, we'll get it matted and framed so it makes a good presentation. I also have a letter from the station chief of the CIA, where I was stationed in Vietnam, and we had several correspondences. In fact, his grandson's been in touch with me and wants copies of those letters also, which I need to recover them as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. I would love to make copies of any of that stuff and frame them and hang them on the walls at the Freedom Center. People don't realize, guys like Jeff Cooper, they have such a profound effect on so many people. I mean, I would not be here at the Freedom Center training people and doing what I do if I had not had the influence of Jeff Cooper and his handiwork in my life. And there's other people that are guys like Mark Karachi and guys like my Uncle Dave, who was SOG in Vietnam. I mean, all of these guys had a profound effect on me and drove me to do what I'm doing now. But, Jeff Cooper's one of those guys, and the way he did Gunsight, the way he set it up, the level of instructors that he hired and the quality of the training there, it had a profound effect on me and how I look at training here at the Freedom Center. And I just have tremendous respect for the man.
Right. Well, Colonel Cooper was 21 years old when Pearl Harbor was bombed, and that's where he got his start, obviously, in World War II. As the old saying goes, he's seen the elephant, and when you're around a group of men, you can tell pretty quickly who's been in combat and who hasn't, without even being told whether they have or not. Can't you, Sam?
Yeah, a lot of times you can read people. Most guys that I run into that have been in a number of firefights, experienced warriors, they generally don't like to talk about those experiences. They're generally a little quieter. They're generally really good listeners. They generally are serious men. They're very solemn. The fact that you've been involved in conflicts and that you've been in situations where people have died, it gives you a different reverence and a different filter for what comes out of your mouth generally. Now, there are exceptions to that, and I know quite a few of those too, but yeah, generally you can tell from a guy's approach and various things whether he's actually seen people die and actually shot people. And a lot of times guys don't want to relive that. They don't want to talk about that. They just as soon live in the present with an eye on the future and try and stay positive.
Absolutely. Well, your subconscious can't tell the difference between talking about something that happened years ago and doing it in real time. So it can be quite unpleasant to relive those experiences by even talking about them, and that's a good reason not to do so. Well, the Master's Moment with Jeff Cooper is certainly well done, and let's see some of his books here. I'm going to list some of his books. I'm sure most of them are on Amazon. We got Fireworks. We've got Another Country, Personal Adventures of the 20th Century. My favorite is To Ride, Shoot Straight, and Speak the Truth. I say again, To Ride, Shoot Straight, and Speak the Truth. Truth. That was published in 1988. The next one would be C as in Charlie, C Stories. And then his daughter published a biography of her dad. And the title of the biography is Jeff Cooper, The Soul and the Spirit, published 1996.
What a great man. Ride, shoot straight, and speak the truth. If there's anything that would characterize Jeff Cooper, it would be the phrase, speak the truth. Because that man had a way of cutting straight to the truth that is uncommon, it is almost shocking, and it is something that I have admired for many, many years.
And myself as well. He was one of a kind, and we lost a lot when we lost Colonel Cooper. Yes, the consequences of what he set up and how that works reminds me of tossing a rock in a pond and how those concentric circles move out farther and farther away from the rock that went in the pond. That's the consequences of what Jeff Cooper's did, what you're doing, and other people that we know and work with. As we move forward, we make these ripples that move forward actually through decades, don't we?
We sure hope so. We sure try to. And I think it's important that we keep trying.
We have a break. Call number is 800-313-9443. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Monday, Firearms Monday. If you need to contact Sam Andrews, you need some advice on what to do for training, for building a rifle, whatever it might be, give him a call at 417-718-2597. Sam, I got a quotation here from Colonel Cooper. This is taken from his book, The Art of the Rifle. Here it is. Personal weapons are what raised mankind out of the mud, and the rifle is the queen of personal weapons. The rifle is a weapon. Let there be no mistake about that. It is a tool of power, and thus dependent completely upon the moral stature of its user, is equally useful in securing meat for the table, destroying group enemies on the battlefield, and resisting tyranny. In fact, it is the only means of resisting tyranny, since a citizenry armed with rifles simply cannot be tyrannized. The rifle itself has no moral stature, since it has no will of its own. Naturally, it may be used by evil men for evil purposes, but there are more good men than evil, and while the latter cannot be persuaded to the path of righteousness by propaganda, they can certainly be corrected by good men with rifles. And that's a quotation from Jeff Cooper, his book titled "The Art of the Rifle."
What a beautiful thing to say, and 100% true. I love the fact that Colonel Cooper was willing to assign moral responsibility to the man and not to the tool. And there is infinite wisdom in that our society could really use right now.
I watched a short video clip of the Attorney General of the state of Virginia this morning, where he was saying the sanctuary counties, which is most of the counties in Virginia, by the way, and about 9 out of 10, the sanctuary law status has no force of law. Well, it has the force of the militia. All these counties are forming militias, except for one where the sheriff is deputizing most of the men and women in the county. We have a vote coming up Wednesday, which would be the 8th, on some of these laws. I understand it in the state legislature there in Richmond, Virginia, and a lobby day on Monday the 20th, 2 weeks from today, in Virginia. I hope things remain peaceful there under all circumstances, but I have my concerns that George Soros-funded people, the same people that were in Ferguson, in fact, it may actually be some of the same people who were in Ferguson are going to show up in Richmond ready to cause violence. What do you think, sir?
Well, I'm deeply concerned for these people's lives. People have a way of winning the Darwin Award. I mean, there's certain people that you can just see them on the fast track to the Darwin Award. And I fear for this Attorney General's life. I fear for this governor's life. These people are violating their oaths of office. They're involved in tyranny, straight up. There's no question about it. And I'm afraid that there are men that live in Virginia that actually care, and they're going to get some cheap Chinese rope and hang these guys from a tree.
We have a break. We'll continue this discussion after the break. Stay tuned. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here, our second hour on Monday, the 6th day of January. Proper tip of the day is to stock up on toiletries, toothbrushes, toothpaste, mouthwash, shampoo, soap, and lots of toilet paper. The most efficient way, the cost-effective way to buy toilet paper is to buy it by the case. Those big rolls that they have in public restrooms, you get them on Amazon.com. It's miles and miles of toilet paper in one case. That's the best bargain, quite frankly. This is Firearms Monday, visiting with Sam Andrews, the proprietor of Freedom Center USA. The telephone number down there, beautiful Lebanon, Missouri. It is beautiful down there, by the way. That's 417-718-2597. Sam, I share your concern about the health and well-being of the governor of Virginia, the lieutenant governor, the attorney general of Virginia. Many people aren't aware of this, but following the events of 9/11/01, we've had unprecedented resignations of men in the New York City Fire Department because they knew that what the public story of what happened on the September 11, 2001 is not what really happened. I fully expect if these draconian laws are passed in Virginia this month, that we'll see men and women in the Virginia State Police turning in resignations, or they may come to the conclusion, hey, I'm fully vested in a retirement program. It's time for me to leave and seek greener pastures. I would not. That's my expectation. If these laws are passed, that some of the best people they've got at the state level of law enforcement are going to be resigning. What do you think, sir?
Well, I think that's entirely possible. I also think it's possible that that they resist and the issue winds up in court. What I think is actually going to happen is I think you're going to see the largest group of gun owners ever assembled for a political protest in Virginia in late January. I think the 19th or the 20th. There's a date
2 weeks from today. It's exactly 2 weeks from today, the 20th.
I think you're going to see people get together at the Capitol and kind of make the point, give them their final warning. You know, a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of retired SEALs. There's a lot of retired tag operators that live in Virginia. These people fought. Their brothers died to protect this flag. They take their oath very, very seriously. And they're not going to capitulate to this type of tyranny and give up their rifles. That's not going to happen. There's no way that's going to happen. There will be bloodshed. Not that I want bloodshed. I don't want it. I want to see the people put pressure on the politicians to write this and do the right thing. And if not, I want to see our Supreme Court judges come down with a decision that will keep other states from trying to pull this type of tyranny. But what I'm telling you is never going to happen is the vast majority of Virginians are not giving up their rifles, and nor should they. You know, Ronald Reagan said that, we should never turn in our weapons, and even if we have to resist with force, we should do that rather than turn in our weapons. Do not, under any circumstances as an American, give up your rifle to any government, any politician, or any fake law enforcement that's ignoring their oath. Don't do it.
That's well said. Well said. We got a couple of callers on hold here. First, we go to John in Florida. Good morning, John.
Another one.
Go ahead, John. Hello? You're on the air.
Okay. Got a question. I've already got a 1022, but I'm looking to get another one. Should I get one with a stainless barrel or not? I would not choose that for any other caliber, but would that be okay for a 22?
A stainless barrel? Is that the question?
Yes.
Absolutely get a stainless barrel. I much prefer stainless barrels over blued barrels. A stainless barrel you can take off and have it salt bath nitrited, or you send it to us, we can deep nitrite it. It will last a long time. If you don't have the opportunity to clean it right away, you'll have less pitting and less oxidation. They're generally a little more accurate, not always, but generally. It depends on who lapped the barrel and who made it, but I would much prefer a stainless steel barrel over a chromoly barrel. That is correct.
Yeah, because this is just for like a 1022. All right, you answered my question.
Thanks for the call, John. We appreciate it. Next, we go to Dean in West Virginia. Good morning, Dean.
Good morning from wild, wonderful, almost heaven, West Virginia. I'd like to tie two or three things in together here if it's possible. Number one, with our troops possibly, National Guard, let's say in Virginia, have already stated they will not enforce any unconstitutional laws. But that would put them on the side of the civilians in Virginia.
Yes, and they are.
Okay, with a huge, humongous war going on in Iran, hypothetically, they would be sent off. You would not have those front lines defending the civilians. Basically, the civilians would be on their own. With that said, in the civilians' back door, in secret terrorist training camps, let me tell you something. There's a lot more of them around than what they've got on maps on the internet. I'll tell you what I saw here last summer in West Virginia. I kept going. This is central West Virginia, I-79. I kept going out to the regular gas station, which has an old-timey restaurant inside of it. And I kept seeing these people from Michigan, Minnesota, where high population Muslim areas, coming in, and they looked like Muslims, but they dressed like Americans. They would do the same physical body language. One would go out and stand at the road in front of the gas station like he's waiting on somebody, puffing a cigarette. Another one would go inside, go to a cooler, buy the same drink from the same cooler, buy that drink, and go around back, pacing back and forwards. This happened every evening, and it was never the same two guys. It was always different ones from different states. And the women at night that worked there, they told me, yeah, they started noticing this. They would have to be getting a pickup meeting point to be taken off on a rural road from that point to go to a certain location. With that said, people who do four-wheeling in the mountains here is a hobby. A lot of them have told me that there are places up on these abandoned strip mines and abandoned strip mine towns on the mountaintops that have guards there, and they run people off. They won't let you in the area with four-wheelers or hunting. Okay, I'm telling you, we got a bigger problem. We got a much bigger problem than what the government has told you. And as far as I'm concerned, from what I've seen in the Trump impeachment hearings, the FBI and the CIA is on the other side. That's what I'm seeing. If that would mean that these groups would be funded, they're being armed, they're being trained by some rogue CIA group or something. So with that said, what kind of firearms do you need in a mountainous terrain? And you're going to be severely outnumbered by insurgents. Hello?
Okay. So
Go ahead.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I can hear you.
Okay.
So
what would be the best?
So I would, if I could wave my magic wand and put the perfect weapon system in your hand,
right?
It would be a piston-operated AR-15 in 6.5 Grundle, and it would have a thermal sight on it. If you want to know what's the best thing to have for that situation, that's the combination you would want to have in your hand. That thermal sight will work day or night. 6.5 Grundle, AR-15, piston-operated, with a thermal sight on it. That would be the ideal weapon system to defend yourself or to deal with multiple targets in that type of terrain.
Yes, and I forgot to add that, last night I saw a guy, you guys are probably familiar with him. His name is, he's on the internet, on YouTube, big husky fella, used to be retired military, disabled military, a cop also. It's called Decote, D-E-C-O-T-E, or D-U-C-O-T-E. Decote, Douglas Ducote. And he interviewed Border Patrol, ex-DHS on the Texas-Arizona borders. He has them on film. And they basically said the same thing I did, that they said that they are training these guys because they look like Central Americans, they look like Mexicans, a lot of these Middle Easterners. They're coming across the border, these terrorists, and they teach them just enough Spanish to fool people. So this one I met, I actually engaged with him, his Spanish was very limited. He said, "¿Qué pasa?" I said, "¿Cómo está?" When it went on, and as we're talking, he doesn't understand Spanish. Well, that's exactly what these retired special agents on the border down there, which described as these people coming through. They're ruthless. They take babies and grab them by their heels and swing them in circles and smash their heads against trees. They just walk up and grab kids out of orphanage. Like daycare centers, kindergartens. And he said they're ruthless. They do it for kicks and they party afterwards. But that's what these guys were. They acted like there was Mexicano or Honduras or El Salvadorian, but they could not speak more than 2 or 3 words in Spanish. And so I knew that they were fakes. They were not Spanish or anything. They were Islamic, Muslims. So they're coming across the border, and they're going to these... people don't realize what's in their backyard. They don't know what's over the mountain. They don't know what's going on. They don't know what this is going to be something else, and we got to get trained up here.
Well, we're certainly in agreement with that, Dean, and you need to get trained up and get yourself properly armed and get ready.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think there's a number of threats that exist to American citizens that are developing threats, and I think that if people are so concerned about the wall on the southern border, and while they're focused on that, you have Muslims that are concentrated in Canadian towns very near our northern border. And the majority of Muslims enter this country through Canada. They come into the USA through Canada on the northern border. And I think that's not a very popular thing to talk about in the news media. But these issues, have been developing for a number of years. And, Obama appointed Brennan, who's a Muslim, as the director of Central Intelligence. And so there's a number of things that are pointing in a direction that I think Trump is quietly trying to deal with. But it doesn't relieve you of the responsibility to train and to get ready and to be the American citizen and part of the militia, which is the way our founding fathers envisioned your security. There was great wisdom in their vision, and you need to take part in that and do your part.
Yeah, that's true. The majority of these license plates were coming from Minneapolis, Minnesota, which is right up there close to Canada.
Yeah, they come through International Falls, a bunch of them do, so.
Yes. Okay, gentlemen, I'm out of here.
Have a great week.
Sam, in St. Louis County, there's a mosque. It's been under surveillance forever. It's been there several years. It's been observed that healthy young males, these are all Muslim men, of course, go into the mosque early to mid-afternoon. When they come out 3 to 4 hours later, they're all beat up and bloody, which tells me all I need to know, that they're doing hand-to-hand combat training with no, without holding out anything back. That's in St. Louis. There's terrorist cells. I know Muslim terrorist cells in Columbia, Missouri, and we're aware of other Muslim enclaves around the state. They do not have good intent. That's the bottom line. Muslims do not have good intent. They do intend to conquer the United States, don't they, sir?
Well, there's a lot of people that want to conquer the United States. The Chinese want to conquer the United States. They want to conquer the continent of Africa. The Muslims want to take over. People that seek power and control over other people are evil. And I just classify them all as evil. Dealing with evil, like Colonel Cooper aptly put it, the best way to deal with evil is to have a rifle and know how to use it. And so get a rifle, get a pistol, get the proper equipment, get the proper training, and hold up your end of the bargain as an American. Don't believe these soy boys that say, oh, concealed carry is the way to go, or guns are evil, or we need to be in a polite society where we don't keep and bear arms. This is not America. This is the America that they want is the America that can easily be taken down. And
Absolutely.
We need to reject these philosophies, reject these manipulations, and be Americans. I encourage everyone to be an American, to keep and bear, to know what you're doing with a rifle, to know what you're doing with your threat assessments, to know what your state laws are, and to get your politicians lined out and elect people that protect your rights and have your family's interest at heart. All of these things play together in a security strategy over the long term. And it has to do with good policy. It has to do with good training practices. It has to do with a continuous improvement mindset. It has to do with accurate and objective threat assessment. And so all of these things play into a strategy that secures life for you, your family, your children, and your grandchildren.
Well, Sam, these sheriffs, all these sheriffs in Virginia the past month have been getting their militias together, developing their command and control structure, getting people split up into companies and squads, and getting them trained up and equipped, getting ready. We have a break. We'll be right back.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Monday. It is Monday, the 6th day of January. I'll be speaking in Indianapolis Friday and Saturday, the 1st and 2nd of May. We now have that listing posted there on my website at thelibertyman.com, where you can buy your tickets right there from that location. This is Firearms Monday, visiting with Sam Andrews, the proprietor of Freedom Center USA. Facebook page is Freedom Center USA. The telephone number is 417-718-2597. Let's continue, Sam.
Well, John, I think in light of what happened last week, I think it's really important for anyone out there that's on a church security team. If you've had a chance to view the video, great. If you haven't seen the video, go to our Facebook page, scroll down a few posts. There's a link to the video. You can watch the whole event unfold in color. And when you see how slow the concealed carry draws were, when you see these two innocent men, Tony and Richard, being murdered by basically a thug in a trench coat, and you see these things happen, and I want you to ask yourself a question and answer it honestly. Are the firearms and security experts in my life, are they calling that situation a win and bragging about the Second Amendment? Or are they saying there are real problems with the way this was handled, no innocent people should have died in that situation, and we can do better? So if they're saying the first, I would highly encourage you to find a different expert. If they're saying the second or the latter option, that we can do better, they're telling you the truth, and there's some wisdom in their statements. And I want you to go out and seek people that understand what happened in that video and understand that it was easily prevented, the two deaths of those men. And just with a little bit of proper training, both those men would have been alive today. And I want you to seek out people that have a continuous improvement mindset, that are experts, that are true experts in the industry, and that they understand what they're looking at, and more importantly, how to fix it. And if you have any questions about how to make sure this type of thing never happens in your church, please call me at 417-718-2597. We know how to keep this from happening. We gain it with simunitions, we go through these things in training scenarios, we can make sure this type of thing doesn't happen in your church. You know, a man with a trench coat and a shotgun is a problem, but it's a little problem. That man should have been taken to the ground. No one should have been shot, not even the perp, if that was handled properly. No one would have died that day, not even the perp. But that's a little problem. That's an easy to handle problem. That's a simple threat to deal with if you're trained properly. Now, let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Jihadi cell, 4 to 6 men armed, hit your church. That's a much, much, much more complicated problem. And if you can't handle the bum in the trench coat, if your security team doesn't know how to deal with that, you are in no way prepared for a more advanced type of attack, and we really need to talk. Because there are simple things that you can do that will really mitigate the loss of life in these more complicated threat scenarios. And like I said, be careful who you choose as your expert.
Sam, we're hearing since that Iranian general was taken out last week, multiple reports, which you and I have been aware of this for years, and many of our listeners, about Hezbollah sleeper cells inside the United States and the possibility of them being activated. This is not some tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. These Hezbollah cells really do exist. And if they get the green light to take action, they will, in fact, do so, won't they, sir?
Yeah, and I would expect, as proud as the Iranian evil leaders are, I would expect them to order or activate a couple of these cells and attack some American churches. It wouldn't, and I would expect even some Muslims that are in our military that aren't loyal to the United States or aren't loyal to their oath to the Constitution, I would expect some reprisals on military bases. I mean, this is just human nature. And if the Iranians want to escalate it, I think they're making a mistake with Trump at the helm. But these things can happen. They're human nature. They're likely to happen. And I just want people, when they're in church, to know that they're protected by people that know what they're doing. And as heroic as the actions of Jack Wilson were a week ago, there are so many things that could have been handled better in that scenario that are fairly simple to learn. It's not complicated stuff. You just have to have the right information and the right techniques.
Well, and, I agree. I didn't find out till yesterday that the church security team had already profiled this guy. Up until yesterday, I thought that the two security people standing right behind him were just inadvertent. Turned out it was intentional. They were already profiling this guy. We have a bottom-of-the-hour break.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. on Monday, the 6th of January. My website is thelibertyman.com. That's thelibertyman.com. Yes, I will be speaking in Orlando, Florida in just about 4 weeks. That would be Saturday, the 8th of February. I'll be speaking in Indianapolis the 1st and 2nd of May. Details at my website at thelibertyman.com. We have a new year. Yes, it is 2020. A lot of people decide they're going to change some things in their life. If you decide to get past the arthritis pain, well, I got something that will help you. That's the energy cleaner. As my wife, Dr. Moore, used to say, when you sleep is when you heal. I sleep like as great as a small child every night. You can also, if you have an energy cleaner. $285 shipping included. If by some chance it doesn't work for you, tiny percentage, 1 or 2%, I do offer a 90-day money-back guarantee. Check out the details at my website where you can place your order using PayPal, MasterCard, Visa. You can send me a check or a money order. My address is right there at my website. You get your energy cleaner, your mattress pad. You can do that right there at my website or call my toll-free order line 24 hours a day, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. This is Firearms Monday. You got a question or comment? Give us a call at 800-313-9443. You want to talk privately to Sam? Sign up for some training. Maybe have a rifle built. Give him a call at 417-718-2597. Sam, we got our next caller on hold. Jerry is taking a break from feeding his goats, and we got Jerry on the line from Texas. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning, John and Sam. I want to pose a question, and then I'll hang up. It's quiet for the moment out here, but here's a quandary, I guess, that I deal with. Whether it's two, one of them I've grown up and been, well, if they come seize your guns or this sort of thing, go along with them and let saner minds deal with it later. Well, folks, I don't know if we got any sane minds out there anymore in a lot of places, but that wasn't the main reason. My problem is how to answer to myself and other people, how do you deal with these terrorists, these cells that, if they die doing their duty to the Muslims, they're going to go to heaven and have their, however many, 70 virgins and this sort of thing?
72, 72 9-year-old virgins.
Okay, I stand corrected, but but anyway, my problem is you can't reason or deal with them. You shoot first and forget about asking questions because they won't be able to answer it. But there's a mindset out there with people. Well, thou shalt not kill. Misinterpreted. I know I don't want to get into that, but. How do you deal with these people? Because they're not afraid to die. That's the best thing since sliced bread. If they get killed doing their duty to Allah. But if you want to discuss that, maybe give me some answers and what have you. I'll hang up and listen. And y'all have a good week.
All right. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Take it. Thank you. I'll take it first shot at this, then you can follow up. In the two theaters during World War II, the main theater is Europe and the Pacific. The Marines in the Pacific were dealing with men who were fighting on behalf of the sun god, the emperor of Japan. And they were a formidable enemy. They really were, because they had no fear of death, and they knew they were doing the right thing. On one hand. On the other, in the European theater, the German soldiers, they were not so ready and willing to die for their cause. They would surrender if given the opportunity, especially after we landed at Normandy, and they would surrender and not fight to the death. Typically, the German soldiers did not fight to the death as the Japanese soldiers would. Fast forward to the present time, when you're fighting an enemy that looks forward to death, and the jihadists do, in fact, look forward to death, because they get to spend, if they die waging jihad, they're automatically in their version of heaven forever with 72 9-year-old virgins who every time they have sex, when they're finished, they revert back to being a virgin forever. who never urinate, never defecate, and never get pregnant. That's the 72 9-year-old virgins. That's a very formidable enemy when you have men who look forward to death and have no fear of death. Your follow-up, Sam.
Well, I think that generally humans create problems when there's false belief systems. And so we have this Muslim population that believe they go to heaven when they die and all the subsequent things you mentioned. And we have Christians that believe they go to heaven when they die. And none of that stuff is true. The truth is that you go to the grave and wait when you die. And if you want to read about it, you can go to the Gospel of John, chapter 5, and start reading about verse 25. And Jesus explains death to his disciples in no uncertain terms. And he says, all who are in the graves, the righteous and the unrighteous, will be resurrected. Well, why would you need to be resurrected if you're in the grave, if you're in heaven, after you die? And so, we need to get rid of the false belief systems, number one. Number two, we need to confront evil, and with lethal force if necessary. So get rid of the false belief systems. Be prepared to confront evil with lethal force if necessary. And, the good guys win in the end. Try not to worry so much. Get ready. Be logistically prepared. And deal with what's in front of you. Live in the moment. Learn to read a person's hands. When I learned to do threat assessment, my teachers taught me to read the hands. The hands will tell you what they're going to do next. And in the example of the church situation a week ago, if they had read the hands when he reached into his trench coat or started pulling something out of his trench coat, they would have gone hands-on with the guy, and there would have been a little tussle, and they would have disarmed him, and it would have been over. But you need to understand how to do these things. You're not born with this knowledge. You get it from people that have experience. You go and get training. And we repeat this over and over and over again, but it's just so important to go find a real expert, not a pretend expert, and get trained. That's how we deal with these issues as a society, is we have armed people, open carrying, that are trained properly. And there's so many more good guys than bad guys. If our country will do this, we will be a very hard target for any of these evil components to attack us in any meaningful way.
Well, I have a friend. He's a big guy, tough guy, owns a successful company, and he's looking forward to cowboys versus Muslims.
You and me both, brother.
We have our next.
I can't wait until the American rifleman decides to step up and deal with some of these issues. Personally, I can't wait. Do I hope it never happens? Do I hope the problems get solved politically? Of course I do. Nobody likes bloodshed. But I can't wait until they press enough buttons to light up this country and the men here that have rifles, because stand by when that happens. Watch out.
We have our next caller here, Kyle in Montana. Good morning, Kyle.
Good morning, gentlemen. Sam, I've been thinking about this a long time, and I'm not sure I ever broached this subject with you or not. I don't remember, but I'm wondering, in my opinion, this Muslim situation we've got coming, and them learning Spanish, and with all of the black Muslims that have been, constantly, you see them all over the place. I'm thinking, my own personal thought is that this is going to devolve into a race war really fast. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
No, I disagree. I actually think this is not going to devolve into a race war. I think that if you look at Trump's support in the black community, it's probably 4 times what it was in the last election. And I think that African-American people, particularly Christian African-American people all over the United States, are waking up to the fact that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party have worked very hard on dividing people on racial lines and trying to push for a race war, and people are onto their game. They're smarter than that, and you just see it all over the black community. I mean, I have lots of friends that are African Americans, and they do not buy off on this. And, you know, none of their friends that were African Americans were like them. They were all saying, oh, Trump's a bad guy, he's terrible, blah, blah. Well, everything's changed in the last year. It's like these guys, my friends in the African American community, are winning converts left and right now. I mean, there's people all over the country now that have started to see through this game. And, you know, Candace Owens and a number of these other conservative leaders in the black community have made tremendous inroads. I don't see it as a race war. I see it as a Americans against the collectivists. That's where the real conflict is.
Well, let me ask you a question here, and I really wasn't kind of referring to. I'm not really referring to the current political situation. What I'm referring to more along the lines of, if it comes down to the point to where there is bloodshed, there is an actual revolution. I believe, I mean, I don't know how it's going to play out. I mean, it's going to take, you know, when you end up with people shooting people, that's a whole nother level of fear and judgment making, and I don't think people even think about that. But it's a whole nother level of this, and once the bullets fly, or if they ever fly, I hope they don't, I agree with you, but if they ever do start flying to where you're the liberals and become the targets, and I'm just afraid, and just from what I've observed growing up around a lot of Indians and blacks and Mexicans myself when I was a child, what I have observed is that there tends to be this shoot them all and let God sort them out almost, and that's not the correct analogy, but it comes down to who you think you can literally trust. And that's going to be very, very difficult for people. And I've thought about this a lot. I hope it never comes to this. And I've got some very good black friends, especially when I was growing up. But my fear is that if this comes down to the point to where you are shooting to survive, that people will not take the chance. I'm just concerned about that, and I know you're a very smart guy.
I think that concern is valid, but I think it's limited in its scope, because I think if you look at the inner city of Chicago, the inner city of St. Louis, the inner city of Newark, New Jersey, certain places in Atlanta, you know, that sort of sentiment might play out to some degree, but for the vast majority of America, I think it's going to be more on ideological lines than race.
Well, I sure hope you're right, because it's going to end up being, I think, I personally am not looking forward to that. I wish that we had never let the Muslims into this country to start with. We should have just stopped it, but because they're just not compatible. It's just, we had up here in Blooming, Montana, of all things, this summer, first time I've ever seen this, there was like 8 very large, they had to be 6'3", 6'4", almost all of them identical, Muslim, wearing their turban things on brand new Harley Davidsons with traveling around, and they stopped and they were taking pictures of a blooming, of all things, a blooming grocery store, you know, just taking pictures of a grocery store. And I thought, you know, here's like, I don't know, there had to be at least 6 or 7 of them at least. I didn't quite catch all of them.
Kyle,
but I was
Muslim men don't wear turbans. Sikhs, a lot of Americans mistake Sikhs for Muslims. Muslims don't wear.
Those are men from India. They're not Muslim. They're Hindi.
Okay, well, boy, these guys were very large, very muscular, very, you could put them in the military and they'd be in top of the line. But it's interesting that they all had Canadian license plates.
Right.
Every one of the motorcycles had
Canadian
Canadian
if they're wearing turbans, they weren't Muslim, they were Sikhs. That's a religious sect in India, and they can be big guys.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
well, that's interesting.
We got to be careful. Kyle, we got to be careful about making assumptions. Okay, you have to be very, very careful. Remember what Mark Karachi, Navy SEAL Team 6 Master Chief, what he used to say was, objectivity is the most important tool to survival. And so we have to see things for what they are, no more, no less. Okay, and in America, we have this standard of freedom of religion. So Muslims can come here and practice their religion if they're peaceful. If they're not peaceful, then they're not practicing their religion. They're using their religion as a cover for an evil manipulation. And so we have to be smart enough to tell the difference.
But do you think that Muslim religion in any way, shape, or form, because it actually means the submission to other races, do you think that's compatible in any way, shape, or form in this society?
It's not, and it can't be.
No, not at all.
It can't.
No, it's not. It's not compatible with this society. But what we have here is we have standards, and we have the Bill of Rights, and we don't need to give up the Bill of Rights just to deal with the scumbag.
We don't. Kyle, thank you for the call. We got our last break. We'll be right back.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
All right, we are back with Jump Back. Sam, your recommendation to our caller from West Virginia, Dean in West Virginia, I think that needs to be repeated. I got to hold the opportunity to hold one of those carbines that you'd built. I've not had the opportunity to shoot one yet. I look forward to it. I'd been a big fan of the Scout version of the M14 up until that, and you convinced me by simply telling me the time on target between shots would be so much dramatically faster. Explain quickly for our listeners here, we got about 3 minutes, that particular carbine, what it is, how it performs, and how they can get their hands on one.
Well, the AR-15 systems that we custom build in 6.5 Grendel use a piston system, a different spring, different buffer. We change everything about the system. And that system will run with less recoil to the shooter. And it has better ballistic performance than a 5.56 and better terminal performance when a bullet hits a live target. And these systems allow you to shoot multiple targets very, very, very quickly. So, for example, I have done an El Presidente with a piston-operated AR in 4.3 seconds. So that's 2 shots on target number 1, 2 shots on target number 2, 2 shots on target number 3, a mag change, 2 shots on target number 4, 2 shots on target number 5, and 2 shots on target number 6. 12 shots in a mag change in 4.3 seconds. That's how little recoil and how fast you can deal with multiple targets with these weapon systems. You cannot do that with an M14 or a scout rifle or an M1 or, larger caliber. And so when you're dealing with multiple threats, you need terminal performance and you need a very quick recoil recovery time so you can get to the next threat accurately. And that's why these weapon systems are such an advantage to a warfighter or an operator or someone dealing with multiple threats.
And if you want one of those carbines built for you, just give Sam a call at 417-718-2597. Hopefully they won't be needed, but I'm not terribly all that optimistic that I would say we're at, we like to assign percentages, maybe 50-50 chance right now. What do you think?
Well, let's see what happens in Virginia. I want to be very clear about what the questions that Kyle raised. We have a disturbing trend in the U.S. with the Patriot Act and some of these other things over the last couple decades where people are willing to give up their God-given rights for what they perceive as security. And I would implore you as a human being, never, ever, ever compromise or give up your God-given right to defend yourself or any of your other God-given rights to freedom of speech, freedom of religion, that type of thing. We don't have to compromise our principles to deal with the sociopathic scumbags in our lives. We can deal with them without compromising our principles. And that is absolutely 100% true. And we need to stick to our guns, literally and figuratively and spiritually. Stick to our guns, do the right thing, do not compromise your principles. We can deal with criminals and sociopaths and those that want to take control of our country without giving up our freedom. Let freedom ring. Thank you, John. Have a great week.
Thank you, Sam. Appreciate it. That's it for the day. Get medical supplies, energy, plenty of essential oils now while you can. Your friend Sam.